you heard of the widow at Windsor, with the airy gold crown on her head? She has ships on the foam, she has millions at home, and she pays us poor beggars in red. Oh, poor beggars in red. There's a nick on the cavalry horses, there's a mark on the medical stores, and the troopers you'll find, with a fair wind behind, that takes us to various wars. Poor beggars' barbarous wars. Then here's to the widow at Windsor, and here's to the stores and the guns, the men and the horses what make up the forces o' Mrs. Victoria's sons. Poor beggars' Victoria's sons. Walk wide on a widow at Windsor, for half her creation she owns. We've bought her the same, with a sword and a flame, and we've salted it down with our bones. Poor beggars, it's blue with our bones. Hands off the sons of the widow, hands off the goods in her shop, for the kings must come down, and the emperors frown when the widow at Windsor says stop. Poor beggars, we're sent to say stop. Then here's to the lodge of the widow, from the pole to the tropics it runs, to the lodge that we tile with the rank and the file, and open in form with the guns. Poor beggars, it's always these guns. We have heard of the widow at Windsor. It's safest to let her alone. For her centuries we stand by the sea and the land, wherever the bugles are blown. Poor beggars, and don't we get blown? Take hold of the wings of the morning and flock round the earth till you're dead. But you won't get away from the tune that we play to the blooming old rag overhead. Poor beggars, is hot overhead. Then here's to the sons of the widow, wherever, however they roam. Here's all they desire, and if they require, a speedy return to their own. Poor beggars, they'll never see home.
Okay, as you're reading this, when you go back through it on your second read, anytime that a word has an apostrophe, that apostrophe is replacing a letter. So for most of these, especially for the first 5 or 6 lines, the apostrophe is replacing the letter H. So when you go through and you read it on your own, not listening to the audio, you want to make sure that you're adding that letter in. So sometimes it's a V, sometimes it's an H, but sometimes it's an F. So make sure that you go back on your own and you try to read it by putting those letters back in. So for an example, she has ships, I'm looking at line number 3. She has ships on the phone. She has millions at home. Whereas it reads, she has ships on the phone. She has millions at home. Right? So if you put in that letter, it makes more sense. So for those of you that are confused, please go through and write in the letter that is missing for each of those. Okay, now from Englan lady. You asked me about the lady. Me dear, old centre here still shine, with Queen. She affect the place like the sun, not coming out often, and when it happen, everybody's out, smiling as she wave a hand, like a seagull flying slow, slow. And you know she come from dust-free rooms in velvet and diamond. She makes you feel like this on and on town London, where long, long time deeper than mind, and hands after hands die away, making streets, putting up bricks, a piece of brass, a piece of wood, and planting trees, and it give a car half a day job getting through. And Leela, darling, no, I never met the Queen in flesh, yet sometimes, deep, deep, I sorry for her. Everybody expect a show from her like she a space tourist on Earth. And darling, unless you can go home and scratch up your husband, it must be hard strain keeping good graces for all hypocrite faces. Anyhow, me dear, you know what old time people say, bird sings sweet for its nest. All right, go back and read these two on your own.